Hello, and welcome back to the Casual Fanatic. Second video back. I touched about it in the last video that I'm doing, my first welcome back video. And what I want to talk about is the Champions League and the Europa League as well, both European competitions. I would touch about the Europa Conference League, but I have to be honest, I haven't really watched many of the games. I watched like the end of like the Basel-Nice game, and Basel went through, and those kind of games. But in general, and I watched a little bit of the West Ham game, but it wasn't really something that I was too interested in. So I don't want to talk about something I'm not sure about. Yes, we do have a couple of interesting matchups in the next round with Aze versus West Ham and Fiorentina Basel. We could have a very interesting final, and realistically, West Ham have a chance. They have a real shot, which would kind of be a perfect thing for Declan Rice, who's, I can almost guarantee at this point, has to be leaving in the summer. And him getting a trophy, getting to West Ham, it's a perfect ending. And if they stay up from relegation as well, it's a perfect way to cap him up and probably gets West Ham some more money because he's getting even more lucrative. But I think this isn't something that most people are too interested in. Even the Europa League, for most people, it might not be the most interesting thing, but I do feel like it could have been more interesting depending on who went through. I think if Arsenal go through to play Juve last round, if United went through instead of Sevilla, you could have had a United Juve, which is a real throwback to like 99. You could have a United Arsenal. That would have been very interesting. Both teams kind of would have needed that to save their season. I wouldn't say save United's season because United overall is a project here. Also Arsenal from the beginning of the year, but it's just based on the places they were at the time, it would be to save that kind of season, right? And then on the other side, you still have Roma and Leverkusen, which I think has been so fun. I think Leverkusen is going to be very interesting. They had an amazing game with Monaco. That was one of the best ties we've seen in Europe all season. You also saw them having a very interesting one with USG, with Ferencvaros. I don't think was the best game. Their USG second game, they were able to bring it through. Wirtz with the important equalizer in the first leg. And then now they play Roma, who this is Mourinho's perfect recovery arc and everything. He wins the Conference League, then goes on to win the Europa League, which winning the Europa League would put them into the Champions League, even though they might qualify anywhere through the league competition. And then he wins the Champions League. He wins all three in a row. Would that make him... surely that's the greatest feat, right? In terms of as a manager. He's not going to do it. He's not winning the Champions League next year. They're probably not even winning the Europa League this year because I feel like, one, if you're playing Sevilla in a Europa League final, it's going to be a long day because that's their competition. And they're proving it again. And also United proving again they cannot beat Sevilla. They cannot beat the Spanish team. When it comes later in the knockout stages, I know saying they cannot beat a Spanish team when they've already beaten Barcelona and they've beaten Real Betis to get to this point. But it was one too many. It was one too many, and Sevilla always get the best of United even. I've gone to a Champions League game and watched them beat us at Old Trafford. I've watched them knock us out in the Europa League semi-final before, and now they've knocked us out again. It's just long when you play Sevilla in the Europa League. And we had one of the worst performances, probably the worst performance of the season. Even worse than the Liverpool game. Even worse than the Newcastle game. Even worse than the first City game. It was just devoid of hope and passion because this isn't a good team. Basic presses, basic mistakes being made. I don't want to make this a United video because I know that's what I'm going to go into if I start delving into the entire game. I just want to talk about the Europa League and the teams that are still in it. You have Juve versus Sevilla. Juve in terrible form. Looking at it here, I'll talk about the Juve-Sevilla one first. Juve in the league haven't won a game since the 1st of April, which was against Verona, who are struggling. The game before that, the two red cards against Inter, and they won 1-0. And then before that, they haven't really... That's where they started picking up some points and back to where the 13-point deduction was. They beat Freiburg, which was an impressive one in the Europa League, to go through to play Sporting. Very boring 2 legs. 1-0 in the first leg and then 1-1 in the second leg. Nothing really happened in either leg. 0.86 XG for Juve, 1.66 for Sporting in the first leg. And that's kind of been the case in a lot of these games. A lot of the Italian teams in Europe right now, XG is very low, not creating enough chances. You just see there's a little bit of lack of player quality, and the step up in intensity is a little bit much for a lot of these teams. Which if Sevilla play a similar fashion to what they did against United, I don't think they'll be able to implement it the same way because the mentality might not go into the game the same way. But they're in much better form. They beat Atletico Bilbao, they beat Villarreal, 2 impressive wins there. They beat Valencia. They they drew with the Celta Vigo, even though they had two red cards, and then they beat Cadiz. That's their run right now, since their bad form, right? And obviously the United win. 3-0 win. They pressed us, they forced mistakes, and they got the results. And now they're into a Europa League semi-final again. And I would back them. I'd back them to beat Juve. I'd back them to be able to overcome any pressure that Juve could have, any 1v1 ability you'd have in Di Maria and his chance creation. Where the worry might be is in set pieces. Juve have looked dangerous from set pieces. They might be able to capitalize there on Sevilla, who aren't the biggest team, aren't the most aggressive from set pieces. We'll see what happens there, but Juve's form is worrying, and they don't score goals. Juve just don't score goals. We're gonna see if maybe you get Vlahovic back into the scene of things. Maybe he can get some goals in there. Moise Kean needs to get some scoring, find some scoring form. But realistically, this is a team that's struggling to score, and it's not like they're defensively that solid either. Bremers look like a decent centre back though, decent acquisition. So we'll see how they manage to do here. I would back Sevilla to go through though. And then in the other side, the real interesting one, Roma Leverkusen, both, let's say, football hippies like dream right now. Like everyone wants a Leverkusen or Roma right now as a second team. Either you want the old dogs in Mourinho and another Mourinho renaissance and see how that goes, or you want to back the young, exciting Xabi Alonso, his style of football, the way he's gotten Leverkusen playing, the way he's bounced them up from the bottom of the league up all the way up since he took them over at 17th. And where are they right now in the league? 5th, I think it was when I last looked at the table. 6th. Yeah, Leipzig won today. They were anyway above them. I'm not going to make that as an excuse. But yeah, they're 6th. Still a good job that he's done with them. They're on a good run. They haven't lost in ages, which is good for Leverkusen. They haven't lost since March. Now, that's the thing. Roma's form has been inconsistent. It's been like that for a while, even against Feyenoord. I thought they might be in trouble after the first leg I saw against Feyenoord. Obviously, Feyenoord couldn't do it when they went away from home. It did go to extra time. It took a last-minute Dybala goal to take it to extra time. When they went to extra time, Sharawi, Pellegrini finished off. Tammy Abraham, they created that really well, but also was really poor defending in general. The red card was later anyway. But wow, they created, I did not realize it was that high. They created 5.05 XG that game, Roma. Feyenoord, complete collapse defensively. 33 shots, 13 on target, 10 blocked shots. It was just a collapse. They couldn't stop them. They created 7 big chances, 4 big missed chances. That's the thing about Roma. I think if you go down to pure quality, them versus Leverkusen, I think they have the quality advantage. I think they have the most talented player in the two legs. I think it's Dybala. I think Wirtz is an interesting one for this matchup. I think the way Leverkusen interchange, the way they play, the way they have runners in behind, the shape in midfield, the question's going to be which one of the defenses is going to hold best. You would usually back on Mourinho's side, and I think the experience of Mourinho, especially in European competition, might be able to get them over the edge. His ability, but the question is he going to be able to adjust to things? If Leverkusen score early, does Mourinho adjust? That's what we're yet to see. We've seen them go down now, Roma, and still be able to come back. I would back Roma to go through, and Roma to play Sevilla in the final, and it's anybody's game. But I think Mourinho does it. I think Mourinho brings it for Roma. I think Roma would have the quality advantage over Sevilla. I think the passion would be there. I think Mourinho would love to win another Europa League and another European competition back-to-back years with Roma. This just feels like the right story, the right situation for Roma. I think they have a perfect run to it. And even if they get Juve in the final, I don't think that's a bad thing either for Roma. I think they would be able to get the advantage on Juve. I think they have a better team right now than Juve. So Europa League is going to be very interesting. But now, let's talk about the competition. The competition that everyone really cares about, even though it's been very weird the way it's shaped up this year. Okay, let's talk about these two teams first. You have Inter AC. You have the Milan derby. I'm trying my best to be able to go to that game. I want to go watch the second leg especially. It would be incredible to go watch the second leg, see what happens, see the deciders. Hopefully, that's his nil-nil first leg, or one. Just give me a draw in the first leg, and then let me go to the second leg and watch the decider. That would be amazing. Imagine it goes to pens or something. San Siro, one of the last significant games in San Siro. While I'm talking, Madrid just scored a second goal to put them into a good spot. Well, they need to catch form at the right time. Anyway, Milan Inter. It's neither team have been very convincing. Neither team are playing well. But Rafa Leao is going to be the important key figure here in this game. As I said, he was going to be with Napoli. I know I didn't make a video about it. That was during my break, but I said it to all my boys. Is Rafa Leao is the best player on this side of the bracket, and he's going to be the decider in the Napoli game, and I think he's going to make the difference. And that's exactly what happened, especially without Osimhen in the first leg. It really narrowed down Napoli's ability to create. They lost a dimension and aspect of their game. Whenever they got it wide, you could see Kvaratskhelia especially struggling a lot with the fact that he doesn't have the option to cross it. Whenever they did, it was a cross to kind of the edge of the box, or a really nowhere box. There's no target man, no one to hit, no one to aim to. And it also made it so much easier for Milan to defend, because they didn't have to worry about the option behind it either. Osimhen is a huge factor of that game, and you could see it was much more difficult for Milan in the second leg. That's why Napoli created almost a goal extra XG in the second leg. Also, they're playing at home and everything, but that game, that series, that legs were decided by Rafa Leao. The first leg, the way he was driving with the ball, the way he was able to penetrate behind. Obviously, the goal was created by Brahim Diaz's run, fantastic run, and then Ben Nasser's finish. And then the second leg was a beautiful assist of the season, probably in the Champions League, from Rafa Leao to Giroud, even though Giroud was trying his hardest to sell that game. Inter just weren't convincing, and that's why I had a feeling that Benfica might go through. Benfica looked way too open defensively. I think the inexperience they have at the back, they have some talented defenders, and then also a Finnish defender next to them. But the talented defense, I say Finnish, but he just won the World Cup. But talented defenders, but I just feel like it was just a little bit too past them. And I think Alexander Ball's injury was big for them. Losing your right back was important. Didn't really have a proper replacement. Inter were down on XG in the first leg, and it was obvious. They're just not a great team, the Inter team. They don't create consistently. They don't have lethal enough strike forwards, even though they have names there. They have Lukaku and Dzeko and Lautaro Martinez. I don't love any of them as clinical finishers. They're decent forwards that could work in a certain system, but playing any of the pairing together just doesn't seem like it works. Lukaku's fitness has been a problem. I think he can cause Milan a lot of problem. I think his physicality, his pacing behind could be a big problem for them, and I think he should start over Dzeko in this kind of game. But I don't see how any team really create a lot of chances, and that's where I think, again, it's going to be the Rafa Leao show. I think Rafa Leao is going to be the difference, and he's going to be the one to take them through to the final, where whoever it goes through is going to get mauled. Let's be honest, it's going to get mauled. You would take a miracle to beat either of the teams that would go through from the other side. But it's a final, and you never know. So that kind of leads into what my prediction for the final is going to be, in terms of who's going to win that. It's going to be whoever I decide here. The Madrid-Man City game. Oh, I need Madrid to win. I've never liked Madrid. I've never been a fan. I respect them. They're the biggest and greatest club in the world. But I don't want them to win, but I can't have City. I can't have Pep winning the Champions League. Even though in my mind, I keep justifying to myself, like, if they do go do it, it's, hey, Pep has won the Champions League. We can call him the GOAT, which he probably is. But I know I'm a United fan. I'm saying that as Sir Alex Ferguson. I mean, no disrespect. I love the man. But Pep is Pep. Pep has changed football. Pep has won everything. Pep does it different. He's a genius of football. The masterclasses on show week on week. The teams, the generations he's shaped and built. It just can't be compared, really. I'm not saying it's clear, defined, or whatever, but I think it would set him on course for that, worst case, by the time he retires. And also would mean maybe he moves past City. Maybe he's done with that project, he's achieved everything, and you need purpose, especially with someone that's a serial winner like Pep. Maybe go back to Bayern, complete the Champions League, but I feel like the squad's not at the spot, and you have Tuchel, you've got to invest in it now. And then also, you have maybe going back to Bersha, but I don't love that idea for him. I like the Xavi project. I want them to continue with the Xavi project. Maybe go manage internationally. Go to Spain. Get the Pedri, Gavi, that next generation going through. be there for that. And I think it would be much more relaxed, less stressful. You could see that it's taking a toll on them, just like physically, the stress over the years. Even though people think they haven't been stressful years because it's so easy at City, they've been in tough title runs. They've been having to win like 14, 15 games in a row to close out league titles. And they've been stressing every year in the Champions League, still not able to get it over the line. That being said, I think Modric's injury is going to be interesting. I think it could be a silver lining there. If he's out, obviously Madrid fans, everyone is going to be like, oh, this is bad. How are they going to be able to compete with that City midfield? And I think that's a good thing. I think they need to have a more defensively solid, secure midfield with some physical players. I don't think they're going to be able to assert control in these games. Maybe the second leg, if they can get a lead in the first leg, then they can start trying to assert control in the second leg, bringing back in Modric and Kroos. But I think you need to go with a physical, dominant midfield to be able to compete with the physicality of City, because that's an undervalued thing in the City team right now. They're a big physical team and they're difficult to compete with. Not just on the ground, but also aerially, size-wise, winning duels. They're excellent at it. And now we're playing four centre-halves. It's so difficult to deal with them. So I think Madrid need to go physical against them, need to play on the counters, need to try and isolate 1v1s as much as possible with Vinny. Pep might decide to go with Kyle Walker just to combat that, because he's seen what happened to them last year when it was no Kyle Walker, because he was injured. And it was a problem. They struggled. That 1v1s, especially that first leg, Vinny was able to single-handedly keep them in that, Containing Benzema is going to be difficult, of course. He can always find the goal, but it's stopping that progress of how do they get the ball, the chance creation, and their main outlet is always going to be Vinny. And Vinny's going to be a big, important factor in this series, as well as the fact that can the Madrid backline stop Haaland? They've not been bad defensively this year. Madrid, obviously nothing compared to that Barcelona defense. Conceded 11 goals, 2 at home. It's ridiculous the amount of goals they've conceded in the league this year. But Madrid have still been defensively solid. They need to keep that into the next round. The good thing, I think, for Madrid is the pace in behind is not a big factor with City this year. And I think that's something Madrid they really have to exploit. Maybe trying to squeeze them and making it as combative as possible in the midfield. I think they could have the energy advantage there, especially with the Camavinga, Valverde, Tchouaméni. Those guys in that midfield, breaking up the play with Rodri and Gundogan and De Bruyne, maybe taking a page out of Ten Hag's book and sticking someone on De Bruyne. It really nullifies the chance creation from City and kind of also nullifies Haaland, because then he has to drop in. He's been performing much better, especially in the build-up and linking up, but teams are giving him too much space. Bayern gave him way too much space. They allowed him to run with the ball. They allowed him several touches on the ball, and it made it too easy. I think you need to isolate De Bruyne. Bernardo is going to be a difficult matchup for whoever plays at the left-back role. If Bernardo plays on the right, or if Mahrez plays on the right, whoever, it's going to be a very difficult matchup. I don't think Madrid have a perfect person to have there. I think Nacho Fernandez might be the best option, unless he goes with Alaba and then he runs Rudiger and Eder Militao, which I don't think would be a bad idea either, also for the physicality there. But Carvajal is going to need to be on his game as well against Grealish. It's going to be such an interesting game. I think City have the better squad. I think they're better prepared. I think they're in the better form. I mean, you can never sleep on Madrid in the Champions League. I think if they go for the route that I'm thinking of, I think Madrid can get it done in a scrappy fashion. And I think Pep could bottle it again by overthinking it and trying to adjust too much for that, especially if Madrid take a first leg lead. But I'm going to say Haaland's the difference mentally, the aspect he's added, the winning mentality, just the sheer presence and force of nature that he is. I think he will score in over these legs, probably both legs. I think City go through, and I think City get to the final, and I think they maul Milan, whichever Milan club goes through. I think they maul them, 3 or 4 probably in the final, and I think City win the Champions League. It's not what we want. We're United fans. This is a United bias channel. Slightly. I try to stay neutral as possible and give you proper football analysis on this. But that's my take. That's what I believe in. That's my prediction for the Champions League and the Europa League. Hope you enjoyed the video. There's another video back. Let me know what you think. And hopefully see you on the next episode. Bye bye.